What up, what up, what up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Maneikis. Happy Sunday, my friend.
What it do, baby?
And of course, rounding out the three-man weave, my podcasting cousin from across the pond, the leader of the Taylor gang, Adam Taylor. What's popping on a Sunday, my friend?
Would you like some tea?
Is that going to be your new sign-on?
I thought it sounded funny. How you guys doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Actually, I'm not good. We talked about this really quickly before we hopped on the pod, but I got some news that my blood pressure's high. I'm 34 years old. I'm relatively healthy, and I just don't understand why my blood pressure is high right now. I'm furious. I haven't had my coffee. I'm just going to throw that out there for everyone that's listening right now. I am an angry man on a Sunday morning. I apologize.
I'm trying to keep my blood pressure down, so I'm going to be furious.
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely a sign of the times of us aging, right? That the first thing we come on today in our kind of pre-production meeting, how you doing? And Greg is just you can tell he's rattled. This is not A+ Coach Maneikis that we're getting today. He's adjusting to the circumstances here. He's like the Boston Celtics flying in at 1:30 p.m. for a 7:00 game. Everything's different. No routines are the same. But yeah, blood pressure, man. That feels like an old man issue. What's going on?
I don't know, bro. I went to the dentist, which was the first time I went to the dentist.
Which, by the way, it's also funny that, I mean, I know they take your blood pressure at the dentist, but that you're finding this out at the dentist for some reason, I think is funnier than you finding this out at the doctor.
Well, I did find out that I've been taking phenomenal care of my teeth because I haven't been to the dentist in 3 years, and they were expecting me to have cavities and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, and I mean, I floss every night. I brush my teeth twice a day. And I went there, and they're like, "Yeah, your teeth look great, but you have really high blood pressure." I was like, "Fuck." What do I do? So I had to look up online different foods that I need to cut out just to see if I actually have high blood pressure or if it's like my diet. It's like solely related to my diet. So I remember in high school one time when I was lifting a lot of weights and working out really hard, I went to the doctor and they're like, "Yeah, your blood pressure's a little high, but do you lift weights? Do you do these things? Oh, it's probably not actually high blood pressure." You know what I mean? So I just got to control some of those variables, and then I'm gonna go to HEB, Will, later today, maybe tomorrow, and take my blood pressure at the grocery store.
Yo, my grandma used to bring me, which used to do that all the time. My grandma would bring me to Osco's drugstore, which I forget what it is now. It was Brooks back in the day. I think maybe it's a Jim now, but she used to go there, get her blood pressure, and then I'd get some candy or baseball cards for tagging along. Yeah, so you and my grandma have that in common.
Greg, you said this is random question. What toothpaste do you use?
Toothpaste? I'm a Colgate White.
Okay. Because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but Crest is banned in Europe, so don't use Crest.
Will you were a Crest family, Will, weren't you?
I was just thinking, I just pick up what it's either Colgate or Crest, but I don't really have a go-to. I just kind of pick up whichever one my eye happens to catch. It's between the two usually, but it's not a strict preference on one or the other.
That's interesting. My family was an Aquafresh family, and without question, we're getting Aquafresh. Now when I go back home, because my parents are old, Sensodyne. It's just all Sensodyne.
Yeah, Sensodyne stinks.
We've got one called Euphamol, which is basically non-fluoride toothpaste, and since I've been using that, 0 cavities for years. Touch wood.
There's one out here. I don't know if it exists in the UK, Adam, but it's called Tom's. Have you ever used the Tom's toothpaste, Greg? It's the super organic, natural one. I've used it in the past, not by choice. I think it makes your breath smell worse by the time you're done. It's that bad. It's horrible. Yeah, that's all I can say. If you're a Tom's user out there, please check your life decisions. I don't know what you're doing.
Just avoid Crest. It's okay. Banned in multiple. It's banned on an entire continent, so it can't be good for you, dude.
Well, now that we've cleared that up and we've come down officially on Tom's and Crest. Guys, before we hop into the podcast, I want to just acknowledge some big changes for us this week. Greg and I touched on this a little bit midweek, but This has been in the works for a while, us finding ways to keep the 3-man weave united. And now we are able to do that on a full-time basis by moving our podcast to affiliating with Blue Wire Pod. So shout out to our homies at Blue Wire. We obviously dropped one of our last podcasts with Ty Windish, who is a member of the Gyro Step. They are also part of Blue Wire. So we're going to have a lot of those connections that are coming through. But just wanted to take a moment here and just acknowledge that this is a really cool moment. And I'm super happy to be sharing it with you guys.
I'm just worried that they're going to listen to this pod and rescind it immediately because of our 5-minute intro on toothpaste.
That's what makes us unique, right? Like, okay, so look at it like this, right? What other podcast can you click into, find out intimate health details about one of the hosts, their toothpaste recommendations, and some of the most in-depth Celtics basketball content on the podcast verse, in the podcast verse? Like, it's just diversifying skill sets, baby.
I also love how you say toothpaste. Can you say that again?
No, you've made me all self-conscious.
Toothpaste.
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 It's a tooth, not a tooth.
All right. Well, before Blue Wire has a chance to go ahead and rescind all of our contracts, let's actually move into some Celtic-specific topics. And we're going to try a new segment here. We don't know if this is going to be the name of it full-time here, but here's a new segment that we want to try right now called Truth of the Week. So with that, our good friend, legend, soon to be good friend, I'll say that. He's not our friend yet, but he's going to be our good friend. Legend, Celtics legend, Paul Pierce, had an amazing tweet today, or not today, but earlier this week, that philosophers like Pluto and Socrates have, thought about for centuries, Plato, for centuries. Is one of those guys not?
No, you said Pluto.
Well, we're off to a great start. Here. Great start. Anyways, what we wanted to do is we wanted to talk about Paul Pierce's tweet here. And I have it up on the screen for those of you that are watching on YouTube. Paul Pierce's tweet. If a girl asks a guy on a date and make the reservation and invite her girlfriend and you are the only guy, does the guy have to pay even if he got a lot of money, or how that work when he really wanted to just stay home and Postmate? So I asked my friends here, Greg, what's the answer to this question from our friend Paul Pierce?
Let's see. I feel like the guy has to pay. I mean, straight up, like the guy has to pay, especially if he has a lot of money. I would say even if he has like a decent amount of money, he probably has to pay, because let's be real. If the girl's bringing her friend on this date, she's like, the guy's going to take care of this. Don't worry about it. He's got a lot of money. Like, you can just come. It won't even be a question. He's not going to tweet about it later tonight. Don't worry about that. He's just going to pay. We're going to have a good time and we'll see what happens.
Okay. So realistically, he has to pay. What I would like to see happen is he pays for the girl that he asked out on the date and then makes the girl pay for her friend. Yeah. Like, I'll pay for you because I asked you out on a date. I was always intended on paying for you and me. If you want to bring a third person into this, then you can pay for them because you're the one that made that invite.
Yeah,
realistically,
I like that.
Who's going to be paying
that is the realistic answer, and that's probably the way it should be done. I just don't think when you go like in the circles that Paul Pierce is in, I feel like they're expecting Paul Pierce to pay.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate truth. Adams is what the truth should be, but the unfortunate truth is you're Paul Pierce. Like, you have to pay. You just have to pay, and not gonna lie, maybe it's gonna work out for you if you know what I'm saying. Wink, wink, wink. Like, it kind of feels like maybe that's a little bit of the insinuation here. I don't know. I will say this. This is certainly not a situation I've ever found myself in. When y'all were in the dating world, this is 100% a rich, famous guy problem. Like, this doesn't happen to regular people, correct?
Except on the other hand, he says when he really just wanted to stay home and Postmate it. Like, I can relate to that. I can't relate to the first half of the tweet, but I can relate to the second half of the tweet. It's not like I'm going out on dates. I'd rather stay home and Postmate it because obviously I have Danielle. But I just think in general, there are many times where I have the option to do something socially and I'm like, I'd rather just stay home. right? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, whether it's like I'm ordering food or I'm just going to stay home and watch a movie or I'm going to stay home and watch basketball, whatever it is, most of the time I'm going to choose stay in the comfort of my home.
But would you watch a movie about basketball? That's the biggest question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the right answer.
Well, I just watched, I think we talked about this recently. I just watched Remember the Titans, obviously a football movie last week. And immediately afterwards, Danielle looks at me and she goes, should we watch Coach Carter?
Man, she's the one. That's so perfect for you.
It's a great day.
Like the best
Remember
question.
the Titans into Coach Carter? Couldn't ask for a better Sunday.
Well, I don't know if we got a definitive answer on what Paul should have done, but I think we all can agree that we would have just stayed home and Postmated it. That's I think the only conclusive answer that we can
Postmates is like Uber Eats, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I always forget we have to do the UK translation here. Make sure that we're on the same page here. And Adam knows.
I don't want to be like, yeah, dude, I'd Postmates too, and then we get off there and you're like, dude, Postmates is like, you know, we're joking. We'd never stay home and Postmates. So I'd rather clarify than say something stupid, and then you guys be like, well, yeah, well, don't worry, we'll delete it later.
Oh no, you're a smart man, Adam. That makes sense. Definitely need to clarify. But that was our first attempt at what we're calling Truth of the Week. We'll see. We're gonna play around with it. We'll come back. We'll see what else Paul Pierce has to say. That's really going to dictate whether or not we use that segment. So stay tuned. We'll continue to filter around with that. But
we could also do one called with Perk and something Perk said, and we could call it "Is this perky enough?"
I like that one. I like it. We got to come up with all just ex-Celtics gimmicks that we have that we can we can go through.
Just anything that we can relate back to the 07-08 Celtics. Let's do it.
Yeah. That's exactly, and especially with KG coming out with a lot of clips too these days. There's a lot of gold in that team right now that's lingering around in the media space. So we gotta try and capitalize on it. But for right now, let's transition back to the present. And we were trying to think of different ways to make this, to make this podcast. We're a week left in the season here. We're running out of topics, so we tried to figure out what were some of the best ways that we can bring this home, bring this all in. So coming up here, we're going to talk about 3 questions that we each want answered about the stretch run. All right. So to start this off here, we're going to go, Adam. We each have a question that we wanted to bring to the group here about the stretch run. So Adam, let's start with you here, and then we'll ping it around the diamond here.
Okay. So my question is basically after the Philly game. So I want to exclude the Philadelphia game because that's probably the last big game remaining in the season, right? Where you're going up against a legitimate powerhouse in your conference. So moving past that Philly game, do you continue to play Tatum, Brown, Brogdon, Smart, some of your most valuable contributors, or do you start to stagger them game to game like what the Spurs are doing in their tank, right? Like you don't know which one of their starters are playing one day and which ones mysteriously can't make it because their car tire flew into an alien spaceship and landed on Jupiter. Like just start staggering. Or Pluto, yeah, but Pluto's a philosopher, right? So that would be my question. Like after the Philly game, should the Celtics start taking a bit more caution with their players' health and trying not to risk having an injury so close to the postseason?
No, I think that's a great question. And Will and I touched on this briefly on the last pod. I think that it all depends on whether or not the 1 seed is still in play, right? If the 1 seed is still in play, if the Bucks somehow lose a game or two that we didn't expect them to lose, and we could realistically have an opportunity to get that 1 seed, I think you got to continue to go balls to the wall until the end of the season. But if the 1 seed's really out of the question, Philly, if we beat Philly, especially, there's just no way that they can catch us. So we might as well. I would prefer to just completely like shut guys down. You know what I mean? If we could shut down Tatum for 2 of the 3 games, I don't want him facing the Raptors at all, just because they're so physical, and like OG Anunoby might foul him hard on a play, or Boucher might do something silly. There's just a physicality in that series or in those back-to-back games that I don't really want Tatum or Brown to be a part of, and Rob too. Like sit Rob, anybody that we think could, like, if they go down, our season's over, right? Mm-hmm. Those guys I think need to be out of the lineup. I think that's Tatum. I think that's Brown. I think that's Rob.
Yeah, I'm with you, Greg. It's a mixed bag right now. And I think a lot of that, we're recording this on a Sunday morning, And, tonight there's going to be a big Sixers-Bucks game. And in a weird way, even though we don't want the Sixers to obviously, we're still 2.5 up on the Sixers. We have a little bit of a cushion. We're kind of Sixers fans tonight, wanting them to beat the Bucks so that it brings it down to just a game lead for the Bucks heading in to Monday. So that way for the rest of the week, we kind of can balance this out. And then if we beat Philly, that takes care of any worry about them trying to catch us. So it's kind of this weird spot where I think it's really hard to make a call until you get through Tuesday. Tuesday, you have to play, I think, with everything you got. You've been off for 3 days. That's the game that I think you look to as you should treat that as a playoff game. If I'm Joe Mazzulla, that's my 8, maybe 9-man rotation that I'm really treating as if this is a 1-game playoff that I really want to win. And these are the guys that we're rolling with. And, by the end of that night, if you're 2 games back from Milwaukee with 3 to play, then you go into everything you just said, Greg, and you start figuring out the ways to rest guys. You start taking them off, taking your foot off the pedal a little bit. But if you're 1 game out and 3 games back and you have the tiebreaker, I think you still have to, go for it as much as you can. But like when they play that back-to-back, you're going to be in a back-to-back, right, with Philly and then with Toronto on Wednesday. I think you take kind of a similar approach to what you did with the Jazz. Like you're still going to sit, I think, Rob and Al and let the chips, kind of fall where they may. So it's really tough to know until Tuesday, but I think Tuesday needs to be approached as if it's a playoff game or a playoff game tune-up. It's one of the closest things we're going to get to a playoff game tune-up, right? With the next week and a half off, because then there's that full week from when the season ends on Sunday until that next Saturday, which is when non-play-in teams will play again. So you're going to have quite a bit of time off. So I think you need to use Tuesday night as your definitive, this is our playoff warm-up. And then the rest of it we'll kind of figure out depending on what the standings look like at the end of that night.
I think that's fair. I think that when you approach it like that, then you're still prioritizing your seeding. You're still prioritizing giving yourself the best chance to make it deep in the playoffs. But then you're also prioritizing health, because if you do realize, hey, first seed's out of reach, then yeah, we're going to start shutting guys down. If it's still in play, even then though, right? Like against teams like Toronto, no disrespect to Toronto, do you really need to push Tatum and Brown's minutes too high? Do you really need to lean on Brogdon heavily? Like, this team went to the finals as the 2nd seed. I know it's going to be tough going into Milwaukee when Milwaukee control the home court advantage, and it's probably going to be a 7-game series. But the last thing I'd want is a key contributor to miss, like even the opening week of the playoffs, similar to what Rob went through last season with Brooklyn, right? And we saw how long it took him to even get back up to game speed, despite coming back midway through that series. And it'd just be like the biggest hammer blow the Celtics could have after what's been a very up and down season. Also, I just want to put out for anyone watching on YouTube my quick wardrobe change for the Mighty Ducks hat. Okay, we can continue now.
By the way, I saw Zoe come bring that in. Was this like a call to the bullpen that you sent her a quick text? She had to come drop it off. What was the exchange here? Because that was quite sneaky as we were going through our responses.
Yeah, so it was actually Summer that brought it into me, and my mum popped around earlier today, and she was like, "Hey, got you a little present. You're always treating me. Blah blah blah. Here's a hat. I know you like the Mighty Ducks." I'm like, "Yeah, I do. Thank you. I'm gonna rock it." And then I come on the podcast wearing a beanie because it was just what was on my head at the time. And then I was like, hold on, I got a Mighty Ducks hat. Wouldn't Greg know I love Mighty Ducks? Let me rock the Mighty Ducks hat. So here we are with the Mighty Ducks hat.
I love it. That's great. Will, should I take the second question?
Yeah, let's go over to your second question here.
Okay. So I want to do a draft of NBA play-in team players. Okay, because I think this is not really a question, but it does kind of get to the question of who do we think is actually going to come out of the play-in tournament, right? Which teams are going to be able to be successful within the play-in tournaments. So I have a list of 20 players, but I feel like if you guys just go ahead and pull up who's currently in the play-in, you'll be able to figure out which players might be available to be drafted. Okay, so I just want to go around really quickly. We'll each get 5 picks. All right, so we'll snake draft it. Will, you can get first pick. Adam, you get second pick. I'll get third pick, and we'll just go around and we'll see which players get taken first. Love a good draft.
All right, so I'm up first on the clock here.
You're up first.
All right, I like this question here. So, and we're doing this from both the Eastern and Western Conference.
Yes,
correct?
Both conferences.
Okay, both conferences. All right, I got LeBron. I don't know if I don't think I need to give any reason. It's LeBron. If he's even somewhat healthy, I just think he's the guy you got to lean into, because that's the question for everything. Are the Lakers sneaky contenders? It all depends on the foot of LeBron James. So I'm going to go with LeBron, thinking that he's back out there playing. He's going to give it his all. It's LeBron. That's all I got.
I'm going to pair LeBron with Karl Anthony Towns.
So this is your team. You're building your team. So your first pick is Karl Anthony Towns.
Also, but LeBron's off the board now.
LeBron's off the board. You can pick
yeah.
anyone else that's currently in play.
No, I'm going with Shai Gilgeous Alexander.
SGA.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
That's my guy right there.
All right, this is where I feel like it starts to get interesting, and this might be controversial, might not. Maybe it's from a Celtics fan's perspective, but I'm going Jimmy Buckets.
Yeah,
Jimmy Butler's my pick there.
I mean, it's playoff Jimmy, right? Playoff Jimmy's a different guy than regular season Jimmy. Like, who do you want to get through to get 16 wins, to get through 20-plus games in the playoffs? Jimmy Butler's right at the top of that list.
Absolutely. So it snakes back to me. So I get second pick of the second round. I don't even know what I'm saying. Anthony Davis. I'm going Anthony Davis here. Okay. I know he's injury prone, but the way that he's played of late, getting the Lakers back over 500, still one of the best two-way players in the game. Anthony Davis off the board. Adam,
so
back
is that
to you.
me now?
Yeah.
So I'm going with Anthony Edwards from Minnesota. So I've got Shai.
You're going with the youth movement.
Yeah, boy. But the explosiveness of that backcourt, that backcourt. You got Shai that can handle the rock, can pressure the rim. Edwards is just ridiculously good. He's probably my favorite young guy in the league. I've kind of mapped out where I want to go from here, as long as Will doesn't screw me on his next two picks. So go for it, Will.
Oh, this is where it's getting tough as far as like trying to actually build a team when I'm looking at this question here, because I feel like all the next guys that I want to choose, except for the one that I really don't want to choose, are not great shooters. And I feel like with LeBron, you always want to have great shooting around. So it's really tough trying to think about who I'm going to go with here.
I mean, it feels like there's an obvious choice there.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's two guys that I really don't like, so I just don't want to take them out of principle as far as basketball players. So I think maybe it's one of those two that you're talking about. All right, let's go with this next pick. I'm going to take Pascal Siakam.
Ooh, Siakam.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
I'm
a Pascal guy. I like Pascal's game. Not the greatest shooter, but it's okay. It's okay. We're going to make it work. And then, you know what? I'm going to do it. I don't feel good about it. Give me Trae Young.
Trae Young. Okay. So Will right now, through his first three picks, has LeBron, Siakam, and Trae Young. Adam, back to you.
I'm going to go with Brandon Ingram.
Oof, I thought about him. He's on one too last night. Had a great game against the Clippers.
Well, dude.
Okay. I have Jimmy Butler. I have Anthony Davis. I need some sort of ball handler here, and I need a little bit of defense. So at this point, this might be a panic pick. Nope, I'm not going to go with a ball handler. I'm going to go with Bam Adebayo. So my front court is Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo.
Oof. Not a lot of spacing out there, but that defense is going to be legit.
That's going to be a legit defense for sure. And then I'm going to go with a little bit of spacing here on the court. Dynamic wing, Zach LaVine.
Nice.
Okay.
So I need some size now. So I'm going to go back to who was originally my pick when I thought I was pairing him with LeBron, and I'm going to go Karl Anthony Towns.
That's a good one.
So that gives me my big man in the middle, some rebounding, some 3-point shooting. I feel like I've got the best spacing out of the three of us right now, and the most probably the best athleticism.
That's true. Your team's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I was really hoping Cat was going to slide one more pick. He was really going to be ideal for the team that I'm building here right now. So now I feel like I've got some tough decisions to make right now. God, there's so many guys I don't like that are in this tournament right now that I'm trying to figure out who I should go with. So I got Trae Young, I've got Pascal, I've got LeBron. So I feel like I need probably one more guy in the backcourt and one more big man. God, Rudy Gobert is just staring at me. And let's take Rudy Gobert.
Ooh, that's a tough pick.
I mean, when you look around at some of the other big men that are left, there's just not a lot. I mean, I guess I could have waited to go with Pirtle, but like, what am I going to do there? You know what I mean? It's Capella, it's Pirtle, Vooch, like, Valanciunas maybe, but I need a big man. So we got Gobert. And so now I need one last pick here. to round this out. You know what? I'm just taking best player on the board. Give me DeMar DeRozan.
It's a good pick.
I flirted with that pick. I
was surprised Levine went ahead of DeRozan. That was a surprise.
That's a surprise.
But I can't have DeRozan and Jimmy Butler.
Spacing issue.
Too mid-range based.
I'm trying to do this from proper team building. How I'd like my team to run. So I've got the explosiveness. I've got the the shifty ball handling. I've got plenty of spacing. What I really need is like a lockdown wing defender, somebody that can really kind of just become that connecting piece. So I'm going to go with Jared Vanderbilt.
Ooh,
okay.
I like
and that gives me a starting five of Shai, Edwards, Ingram, Vanderbilt, and Towns. I'm very confident of that group.
That's a really good pick. All right, I have a lot of options left here on the board for my last pick. I have Jimmy Butler, Anthony Davis, Bam Adebayo, Zach LaVine. I feel like I need one more shooter out there on the court. I don't necessarily. I'm trying to think of who might be a good. I'm gonna go with Jalen Williams from Oklahoma City Thunder.
I was trying to think of a way to sneak him or Giddey on my team, but I wasn't really sure what to do there. But I like that. Those are two guys that I was thinking about.
So I was either thinking between him or McDaniels because I love McDaniels. But I think Jalen Williams has proved to be just a little bit more reliable shooter, and I love the way he plays. Maybe that's a product of the Thunder's style of basketball, but it seems like he'd be able to fit with any five, and he's a lockdown defender. That team that I have,
what's your starting five? What's your starting five, Greg?
So backcourt, I have Jalen Williams and Zach LaVine, and frontcourt, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Davis. Heck of a defensive lineup.
That's
zero true point guard.
Yeah, it's elite talent, but just like the fit, I'm not sure on how you're gonna that's like early season Lakers problems. You know,
yeah. We're running point Jimmy basically is what I think the plan is on that one. And then what's your five, Adam? I know you just said it, but say it one more time.
Shai, Edwards, Ingram, Vanderbilt, and Cat.
Ooh, I like that you have like a legit true role guy in Vanderbilt in there so that everybody else kind of has their opportunity. That's good. Okay. And then in the backcourt, I've got Trae Young, DeMar DeRozan. I've got LeBron and Pascal Siakam on the wings, and I've got Gobert as my center. I feel pretty good about my team.
That's a good team.
I feel pretty good about that. Trae, the fact that he'll space it as far as he can gives enough room, I think, for LeBron, Siakam, and DeRozan to be able to do their thing. And Rudy just stay next to the hoop. He's not getting the ball. We're not feeding Rudy. Rudy's getting 0 touches in the post. He's just setting screens. That's all he's doing, screening and rolling and protecting the rim. That's all.
No microphones near Rudy Gobert ever. I don't want the league shut back down again. Other than that, I think that's a solid team, man.
I feel pretty good. Although I will say I was watching one of the I think it was the T-Wolves against the Suns earlier this week. Man, Rudy Gobert pains me to watch. I just don't enjoy watching him. That pick really hurt me. And I'm not a big Trae Young fan, and those two are both on my team. So I think I built my team well, but I don't like my team.
My team speaks to me, man. I like the young guys. I like people that can handle the rock. I love explosive guys that can shoot off the dribble as well. And then Towns is just like the guy that everybody should be rooting for, man. That dude's been through so much off the court shit throughout his career. I just want him to do well, bro. Pairing him with Vanderbilt, Ingram, Edwards, and Shai with me as the X's and O's head coach. We got this.
Well, let me tell you this. Your team wins the league pass rankings team. That's the team that I'm tuning in to watch every single night. My team might have a chance to win a championship just because of the defense, but they wouldn't be fun to watch.
Yeah, so yours is a postseason team. It's going to be, hey, as long as we make the playoffs, we're good.
The game slows down. We can muck it up. You did pick Jimmy and Bam. So you basically picked the Heat formula, which I kind of hate you for because I'm already annoyed that it's likely Celtics Heat in the first round, and so now we're just adding more of that to our fake 3-man weave tournament that we have here. So thanks, Greg.
And then we got Will. I think Will's is the most well-rounded team. They're going to dominate in the playoffs. They're going to dominate in the regular season. They're going to be one of those teams where the media is writing different trade proposals because of all the star talent that's already there. So I think we basically hit everything.
Here's the thing, though, with Will. Who has less shooting on the team? Will's team or my team?
It's especially because Trae Young's not been great shooting this year. It leaves it pretty close. I mean, that's why I struggled to take DeRozan with. I mean, that was just such a value pick with DeRozan. But I mean, the fact that he was still there in the last round, it was just hard to pass. I mean, he's going to be borderline third All NBA, third team All NBA. I don't think he's going to make it, but he's going to be in that discussion range. Yeah, it's tough. That was the one part that I felt like I was really lacking. And so, I'm not the biggest Cat fan, but you got Cat one pick ahead of me, Adam. That's really where I wanted to go with. I think it was that Trae Young pick, was to get Cat to space the floor a little bit. And then so reluctantly I had to go to Trae Young. But
I mean, we could at least the silver lining for all three of us is none of us ended up with Vucevic. Like, that's we can all go away happy.
Do you guys want to pick a quick 6-man? Just one person, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I like this. Let's do it. So it goes back to you, and then to Adam, and then to me.
Yeah. So my 6-man, I'm going to go Josh Giddey. So I have a true point guard coming off the bench.
Okay, so it's dawned on me that I haven't picked a single player from the Eastern Conference. So I think I'm going to have to go and have a quick look at who I might want. I'm going to go Alex Caruso.
Nice.
I just need that energy guy.
Yo, give me some. I need some knockdown shooting. I'm taking Isaiah Joe. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Let's go.
That is a deep cut. I love it.
I'm going to say this straight away. If I hadn't have only picked Western Conference guys, I would have gone Austin Reeves. So I just went for the next best thing.
That would have been a good pick too. Austin Reeves definitely would have been in the mix. Yeah, I probably could have gone like Bogdanovich or something.
What do they call him? Hillbilly Kobe. That's his nickname, dude.
I have not heard that, but that's gonna be Hillbilly Kobe. By the way, I like that Kobe is so popular. They had Matt Bonner on with Scal and Mike Gorman, and so
that's a great interview.
Yeah, and so what is it? Scal's the white mamba, Matt Bonner's the red mamba, and now we've got Hillbilly Kobe. So everyone is just living off Kobe's orbit. Even even after his passing, he still is gravitating all these additional nicknames just based off his own presence.
Hillbilly Kobe is the best one, dude.
That's a good one. But all right, let's transition to my question here, because this is a good one, Greg. You brought up the 6-man, and that's where I want to go with this next question. All right, so looking around the league, we know that the MVP race is tight, but we know it's basically a 2.5 man race. It's not necessarily super exciting. You look at the coach of the year. I think Mike Brown has propelled himself that it looks like that's going to be more of a lock. Joe Mazzulla will be in the mix. I don't know I don't think he's gonna necessarily get it, but I think that leaves one opportunity for a Boston Celtic this year to still grab some postseason hardware when it comes to these different player awards, and that's the 6-man of the year. So I feel like right now, and I want y'all to jump in if you think it's not just a 2-man race, but to me, it feels like we're down to Malcolm Brogdon and Emmanuel Quickley. So what I want to know is, number one, am I missing a candidate? Number two, is there anything either of these guys, or if there's a third candidate I'm missing, can do in this last week to try to push themselves to the front of this particular race, because I feel like it's extremely close. So I think this is going to be one of the more interesting postseason awards. So Malcolm Brogdon versus Emmanuel Quickley. Who do you got? And am I missing anybody in that?
I'm going to go Brogdon, one, because I have money on it. And I truly think that he has been like the most prototypical 6-man throughout the entire year. Maybe you could make the argument that because he hasn't started any games, like sometimes that's something you'll see out of a 6-man, is that when they need to be plugged into the starting lineup, they can, which is what Quickley was able to do. And which is when he kind of propelled himself to the forefront of this discussion with that game against the Celtics. So maybe that the idea that Brogdon hasn't played any games as a starter helps him. Maybe it hurts him. We're not really sure on that end right now. So I think Brogdon, for sure, in my opinion, is the 6-man of the year in terms of what does he need to do. It's the game against Philly. He's got to have one more opportunity to step up. He stepped up big time in the game against the Jazz when Jalen just had an awful game against the Jazz. Jalen just didn't show up at all in that game. And Brogdon took us, when it was a close game in the late third quarter, Brogdon just took over the game. So if he does that on national television against the Philadelphia 76ers, I think just having that one more moment this year is going to allow him to win that award.
I think as well, the thing with Quickley is he's still so much younger than what Brogdon is, and I don't know whether that's going to go for him or against him. You know, like Brogdon, when you're saying like, you know, Quickley's been able to step into the starting lineup when needed and make an impact. Well, Brogdon could have done that at any point, and I think that a lot of the voters are going to know this. The reason he's been like pretty much, well, solely confined to the bench is minute management, health management, keeping him fresh. It's not so much that he's not capable. It's just that if we run him in the starting five for a stretch, there's a good chance that he goes down for a few weeks. We've seen that throughout his career. I'd hope that Brogdon gets it because of team record, because of team success, because of contributions to team success. And that but then again, you could look at it like, well, Quickley's on one of the most overachieving rosters in the NBA right now. Like the Knicks are literally beating everybody for God knows whatever reason. I mean, they've been really enjoyable. I'm still going to say Brogdon walks away with the sixth man of the year. And I think it's because this might be the best season people have seen from him in terms of consistent, healthy production.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise here. We're all pulling for Brogdon. Much like Greg, I also have a financial investment in Malcolm Brogdon's success, so it's hard for me not to pull for Malcolm Brogdon. But I do think that this race is extremely close. And you look at just the straight numbers. They're both averaging a little bit below 15 points per game. They're both right around 4 assists per game, or 4 rebounds per game and about 3.5 assists. Their shooting splits lean a little bit towards Brogdon, but not by a crazy amount. And then, you know, to your point, Greg, like Emmanuel Quickley has played in 77 games. Like that's something I really respect when it comes to some of these awards and just the way some of the, you know, when I look at Julius Randle for all NBA, like the fact up until he obviously got hurt last week and will be out for just this week's games. But the fact that Quickley's played 77 games already in this season, like that's really impressive. So I do think that has to count for something. And then when you factor in team success, you know, Celtics are in second place right now. Knicks are in fifth. You know, I think for me, it's the consistency of Brogdon that would have me leaning over Quickley, aside from my own financial incentives. I think that would have me leaning towards Malcolm Brogdon. But with Quickley, he does have a few more. Like what's the Malcolm Brogdon moment? Like if I just had to put you on the spot right now, what's a moment that you think a voter could define as, yeah, that was Malcolm Brogdon this season?
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I don't have one, which is why I said like he has to have that moment against the Sixers in this upcoming game, because he just did have a moment. It's just that nobody saw it because it was against the Jazz when they're tanking, right? But he did have a moment in the last game. I don't know if you before we transition here, Adam, do you have any particular Malcolm Brogdon moment you can think of?
I don't have a moment, but I do just want to point out, and I was just pulling the stats up as you were talking. Which I haven't got around to doing yet. But Brogdon's among the league leaders in 3-point percentage as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that has to play a part, because it's like not only has he been impactful, has he been consistent, he's also among the best in the league at one of the most important shot types in basketball right now. So I think that's got to give him a little bit more. And in a Brogdon moment, I'd just say signing for the Celtics is a Brogdon moment.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, honestly, because like he decided to come in here and willingly take the 6-man role, you know, so that itself is like a sacrifice that I think more people need to talk about as we get to the end of the season here versus, oh, Quickley's dynamic, he's fun, and he had these like big moments on national television. Yeah, Malcolm Brogdon has been there willingly and consistently throughout the year. So like, you're going to see, no matter what game you tune into, Malcolm Brogdon's going to get between like 12 and 18 points and shoot like 3 for 6 or 3 for 7 from 3.
Yeah, and that I think the 3-point percentage, Adam, I think you nailed it. That is, without there being a singular Brogdon moment, that's the Brogdon stat that you look to, right? The fact that he's shooting about 44% from 3 this year, you know, him and Al right there, as I haven't looked at it recently, but I know they've been kind of going back and forth, the second and third place in the league behind Luke Kennard as far as 3-point percentage. But I think that's what you're going to lean into, as this is why Malcolm, on a team that shoots the most or one of the most 3-point heavy teams in the league, this is a guy that allows them to play that style and be so successful.
Yeah, so right now they've got, sorry, Greg, sorry. Right now, they've got Horford in second at 45.1% behind Kennard. Damian Lee is third from Phoenix, and then Malcolm Brogdon's fourth. So, yeah, I mean, if you want a 6-man of the year, the ideal thing is he accentuates what the starting five do well. And that's exactly what Brogdon does.
And I don't know if you have the totals pulled up. I know last time I checked, it was Al and Malcolm had basically shot. I wasn't looking at Damian Lee at the time, but they had basically shot 80 to 90 more total threes than Luke Kennard, and still had that percentage, which was, it's a pretty sizable difference as far as the amount of attempts go, which I'm sure is still somewhat in that range. Oh, you're on mute, Adam.
Sorry. Canada's took 245 threes, Horford 308, Damian Lee 241, Malcolm Brogdon 287. So you are right. Those two. Oh, and if we want to just round out the top 5, Gary Harris has took 210. So those two have taken considerably more threes than the rest of the top 5.
I have one dark horse candidate I just want to throw out there, a guy that I've always loved. Jones from the Grizzlies, Tyus Jones.
Oh, Tyus Jones. I like that.
Love Tyus Jones. The fact that they committed to him this offseason, they let go of Melton, right? I forget if that was a trade or a free agent signing, but
it was a trade.
Yeah. So they let a really good piece go because they knew that there wasn't enough room, and we love the backup point guard that we have in Tyus Jones. And the fact that the Grizzlies have continued to be great even without Ja Morant in the lineup, just plug Tyus Jones in there. There was a moment where I thought, like, is Ja Morant just going to be the sixth man the rest of the year? Because they brought him off the bench the first 2 games he was back, and then Jones sat out, I think, his 3rd game, so Ja was able to start again. I wonder if that was fabricated so that they were able to justify that or not. I don't know. But Tyus Jones is awesome, dude. He has his assist to turnover ratio is ridiculous. The last since 2018, 2019, here are his assist to turnover ratios. 7 to 1, 5.2 to 1, 5.4 to 1, 7 to 1, 5.5 to 1. Insane.
That is taking care of the ball. I mean, imagine if the Celtics had somebody that could take care of the ball. Because I'm just saying.
That's if you had to, paint a picture of your ideal backup point guard, Tyus Jones, I think, kind of fits that mold, right? That's everything that you could want in someone that's, running your second unit and doing it in the manner that he is.
I think until Brogdon kind of accepted being a 6th man, I think Tyus Jones was the best non-starting guard in the league.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And that's why all 3 of these guys here are likely to be the candidates that are going to be those finalists for the 6th man of the year. But we'll see. We got 1 week left in the season here, everybody. So we're going to play it out. We're going to see what happens. We'll have our awards. We're going to have about a week to talk about the play-in tournament and what's going on with that, figure out who the Celtics first round opponent's going to be. So we'll have a full week where we can dive headfirst into all of these topics here as this week plays out. But for today's episode, let's send it over to a vibe check. All right, vibe check here on a Sunday fun day recording. Greg, let's go with you, man. You came into this podcast. You were a little shaken up with your blood pressure. You got no coffee. I feel like I got to give you the floor here, man. Let's hear what you got for a vibe check this week.
I'm going to actually bring back some oral hygiene conversation for this vibe check. I know we started the pod talking about toothpaste. We're going to
really bringing it full circle here.
We're ending the pod also discussing oral hygiene. So you know how sometimes you can kind of just be in a bad mood. Maybe you have anxiety, maybe, I don't know, depressed, whatever it is that you're feeling, frustration. And you're like, I wonder what's a small thing that I could do just to make myself feel better in this moment. And one of the things that works for me is brushing my teeth. Sometimes I realize that I'm just not feeling great because my mouth tastes like shit in that day. I've been talking all day. I haven't I've had a few meals, I've had coffee. And then I'm like, when I'm about to go on a pod, sometimes I'm about to go on a pod and I'm like, oh, I feel gross. I don't have time to shower. I don't have time to do a full wardrobe change. Adam, as we saw, just throws a hat on. For me, I just go, I brush my teeth or I rinse my mouth with some Listerine and I feel great. So I know that oral hygiene is important, but also slept on oral hygiene as a mood changer.
I love the diversity of this podcast. I do. I just really do. I don't know what to say there because I too enjoy brushing my teeth.
Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those things. It's so dumb that it's actually perfect. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just whenever, like you said, you put it perfectly. You're just in a mood for whatever. It's not necessarily there's anything crazy happening, but you're just in a mood or a funk and you can't figure it out. It is one of those things I go to where it's maybe I just need to feel fresh. I just need to feel something minty. It's just gonna give it that, that brand new feel. And yeah, so whether it's, and I do this, it's funny because you talked about doing it for the podcast. I 100% have done that. We do this virtually, folks. We're not in person. No one's smelling bad breath around here. We don't have legs. We don't have legs. Lieutenant Dan, you got no legs. We don't have them. We just don't have them here. And so, but sometimes I do pop in a mint. I don't really have any gum lying around, but I would do gum and then I'd take it out probably before we start the podcast. I don't know if I'd roll it up like a booger like Greg does, but but I do something to give me that fresh feel. So you see, Adam's got some mints right there. Adam's ready to rock if he needs to have that rejuvenation. So I like that. Oral healthcare as a mental health solution, I think is kind of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, or at least a mental health kind of like improve. Like I wouldn't say solution.
Yeah, solution's a little too strong, but
yeah, like supporting agent.
Yeah,
support agent.
All right, who's up next, Will?
I like this. Let's go to Adam. Adam, you go next, and then I'll try to bring us home somehow, some way.
Yeah, so I mean, right now I'm rocking a wrestling t-shirt. It's WrestleMania weekend. Yep. So WrestleMania goes Hollywood, brah. I'm kind of vibing with that. I started watching it earlier today. I mean, it's 4 hours. There's a guy walking past with a basketball. So once I'm done here, I've got to go cook him down at the local park because you can't go to my park and think you can ball on that hoop. That's my hoop. Anyway, yeah, WrestleMania, I'm vibing with that. I started watching it earlier. It's 4 hours for WrestleMania 1. It's probably going to be 4 hours for WrestleMania Part 2. So I've got 8 hours worth of wrestling to get through. John Cena with his bald patch at the back of his head is hilarious.
He's back.
Yeah. He's like opening all of WrestleMania.
So actually, hold on. Let me ask you this, Adam, because I did see this today. I saw The Rock doing something. I didn't listen to what he was saying, but he was doing something. And so what is the deal? And I know you've become more of an AEW guy than a WWE guy, but Greg and I have some WWE enthusiasts in our life as well. You're kind of both. Okay. Well, what's the deal with like all of these older wrestlers that keep coming back for like 1 or 2 matches? Like how important, how cool can it be? Like how is it not lost its buzz? Like once I get it, you're like, oh my God, this is so cool. Taker's back, or The Rock came back, or Stone Cold came back. But if they keep coming back for these matches, you just know it's happening every year. Doesn't that lose a little bit of its sizzle, a little bit of its flavor? Like they're not going to clearly win the title and then come back and be a part of wrestling on a consistent basis. So it's not like it's a full comeback. It's a one night only, somewhat meaningful, but I feel like at a certain point you've done that script before. It loses its flavor.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's more along the lines of you never know which time's the last time.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. And it's like, and it's also like a lot of these guys that don't wrestle no more are still the biggest stars in the game. Like you put Stone Cold in a ring, he's going to draw a larger crowd than if he wasn't there, simply because people that don't fuck with wrestling anymore probably still fucked with it when Stone Cold was there. So they're gonna tune in, you know what I mean? So you'll probably tune in for that segment. It's the virality of things as well, right? You can chop up that one segment and it's gonna make you money on YouTube, or it's gonna draw interest on TikTok. But for me, it's just like you never know which time's the last time. Like I mean, Sting is regularly on AEW. Sting's got to be like 67 years old. The dude's old, man. Like
these geriatric fucks out here.
But you gotta stay relevant, because you never know. Like hundreds of years from now, someone might like reference you on whatever their 200 years from now version of a podcast is, transpose a vowel and call you the Ruck instead of the Rock, or call you Stang instead of Sting, like Will did with Pluto instead of Plato. You know what I mean? It's really important that you stay relevant.
I mean, if my guy Plato had a little bit more TikTok content, maybe I know. Maybe I would have got it right.
Yeah,
like
I mean, we see Pluto up on a Cartoon Network in the Disney Channel all the time.
Yeah,
like who's more relevant? Who's more relevant today, Pluto the dog or Plato the philosopher? That's the real question.
I think it's Pluto the dog, and I bet you know what? I bet you he's got a couple girls going on dates too, and he's not sure who's paying either. You know what I mean? I bet you he's thinking about that.
The only thing he's very sure of is the end of the night will be exactly like one of Snoop Dogg's albums.
They ain't leaving till 6 in the morning.
What's one of the names? Think of the names of one of the albums.
Oh, I think we all know. I hope the audience knows.
I'm just leaving it at that.
Well, we'll dangle it at that.
I'm
But yeah,
vibing. I'm
WrestleMania
vibing.
weekend.
I'm vibing with WrestleMania.
Okay, respect that. Shout out to the Latino World Order. I saw that they got back together. Rey Mysterio leading the LWO back to relevance. My buddy told me I should get that T-shirt, which is pretty sick. So may have to look into. If you know, we've got to hook up for a Latino World Order shirt. Holla at your boy.
I can send you a 10% discount.
Ooh, maybe that works. We'll see. Well, let's see if anybody comes through here first. Let's see, listeners, hook us up. Let's make it happen. All right, let me round this out here. My vibe check of the week. I'm gonna keep this pretty simple. Buzzer beaters. Was watching the Final Four last night. Had San Diego State against Florida Atlantic. Adam, not sure if you've caught this on Twitter and stuff, but Final Four here, NCAA tournament. The two winners will play on Monday night. Going to be the UConn Huskies. Shout out to our friends that are big UConn fans down in Houston. They're going to be taking on the San Diego State Aztecs. But I really wasn't. I was kind of half paying attention to the Florida Atlantic and San Diego State game. And it's, I was just thinking about it, and I kind of caught the last 2.5 minutes of that game. And I was just thinking about, like, man, I don't have a stake in this. I have no horse in this race. Like, I don't really necessarily care what happens. I'm just here for the entertainment factor. But I was thinking, man, you could put any game on. Any game. I don't care if it's St. Anne CYO against St. Brendan CYO. If there's 2 minutes left and it's within a bucket, I'm locked in. Like, there's nothing better than being locked into a game because you don't know what that ending's going to be like. And I think about how many games throughout the NBA season that as I'm going to bed or as I'm just flipping through after maybe a Celtics game or something, I try to find whatever ones in the last couple minutes. And I cannot turn that off, even if the only chance is a full court heave with 1.3 seconds left down 3. If that's the only chance for this game to be tied, I can't leave just in case there's that 1% chance you see something that you weren't expecting to see. And, Florida Atlantic misses the shot down about 7 seconds left or so. Guy from San Diego State gets it, goes length of the court, hits him with a nice little hezzy step back. Game over, just something you don't get to see every day. So buzzer beaters are my vibe check of the week.
Yeah, and the San Diego State coach going full Missoula and not calling the timeout. But I loved it in the post-game interview. They're like, they asked him, why did you not call a timeout? You had 1 left, 7 seconds left. They didn't have any of their great offensive players on the court. Well, they had Butler on the court, but they didn't have that. I think his name's Bradley, because they put their best defensive lineup on the court to get the stop, right? So everyone's expecting them to call a timeout, and they asked him in the post game, "Why did you not call a timeout there?" He goes, "I ran out of plays." It was such a
I didn't hear that. That's a great answer.
Such a great answer. He was like, I just ran out of plays. I figured we'd get a better shot if we just went in transition. I love that answer. I love the transparency. It was just there are some college coaches that are just so full of themselves because, the Coach K's of the world and the Izzos of the world, because they are the man. They're bigger than the program. They're bigger than the players. But for the coach to be so humble in that moment, and I don't know the coach's name. I didn't recognize him. Maybe he is more famous than I'm giving him credit for, but he was just didn't have any plays left. Thought it was great.
All I've taken away from this is that the NBA app, like NBA League Pass and stuff, they all need a red zone feature. That's my main takeaway.
Yeah, they kind of experimented with that a few times this year. I forget what they were calling it, but and this is what the NBA needs to do more of. So in a different episode, we should talk about kind of the collective bargaining agreement and some of the nuances that came out of that and what that will look like down the road here, which dropped on Saturday, which is definitely interesting. Some of the changes that are coming, but I know scheduling wise, they tried this a few times this season where they would stagger the start so that they could do exactly what you're talking about, Adam, where it was, there's a 7 p.m. start, a 7:15, a 7:30, a 7:45, 8:15, so on and so forth. So that way throughout the night, you're just getting, ideally, if you're getting close games, you're getting those buzzer beaters or those OTs or whatever stacking on top of each other, and you're creating that red zone atmosphere. I do think that's something the NBA needs to be more at the forefront of pushing content like that, because sure as hell, all of us are eating that up when they do it.
So would you prefer a buzzer beater over an Elam ending? Like a really good Elam ending?
Yeah. I mean, I would, just because the Elam ending, when the Elam ending hits, it hits. But it's also, I don't want a game. It's not like an Elam ending free throw just kind of disgusts me. I just don't feel great about how much. I mean, we already have enough issues with the refs as it is now. I can't imagine being how are you going to call that? This team's only, down 1, and they need to hit these 2 free throws or 1 free throw to win the game, like collectively, people are just going to lose their minds if that's an option.
Yeah, I think the Elam ending needs to be saved for like very specific. Like maybe the Elam ending, if they're really going to bring in the in-season tournament, maybe they try the Elam ending in the in-season tournament, but only for overtime or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it has to be used very selectively.
Yeah. Any quick thoughts on the in-season tournament from you guys?
I love it.
Ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm English though, right? Like, you got to understand, like, I've grown up with in-season tournaments in major sports my entire life. It just makes sense to me. It's not, and it's one additional game. You know, if you make it to the final and then the players get incentivized with cash, what is it, $500,000 per player?
Yeah, which I don't know if that's going to make a difference for these guys, which is my kind of skepticism. I mean, here's the thing. I think it's worth trying.
On the floor. Like, everyone's playing harder. If you get, I don't think it's going to make a difference until that final game, and then I think that makes a huge difference because $500K
is still $500K, and you're going to be potentially in Vegas, which you can go spend it on right away. And I think these guys would have some ideas what to spend it on. You know,
I've got an idea straight away.
Just hit a pocket.
Roulette table. Get your mind out of the gutter. Yeah.
Bring all your girlfriends to the date.
yeah, they can all come if I got $500K. Everybody coming, everybody eating. But yeah, I think the in-season tournament will be. I think it's worth trying. I don't know. I'm interested to see how it goes and how they structure it. Like I have no problem with trying it. I'm not necessarily super excited for it, but I also think it's worth trying. So we'll see how it plays out. But that was one of the many interesting nuggets that we'll touch on at a later date here when it comes to the CBA. May need to tag in our good friend Keith Smith to go over some of the financial incentives that come along with this new CBA deal. The fun stuff, the real stuff. Dig into the real fun stuff. Bust out the spreadsheets and calculators. That will be for a future episode. But I think that is going to do it for this particular episode here of Green with Envy on a Sunday fun day as we roll into the final week of the regular season. Feels pretty wild to say that. Any final thoughts from either of my guys over here before we send this over to some Black Sheep Optimists?
We should listen to Black Sheep Optimists.
Great recommendation. Greg?
Started the pod not in a great mood because of the high blood pressure thing, and it feels so much better now. Thank you, guys.
We love you.
You're welcome.
And with that, we're going to send you out with some music from my band down here in Austin, Texas. We are Black Sheep Optimists, and this one is called Skywalking. Peace, everybody.
Peace.